right, my friends. So one of the questions we had was from a daily quote. I hope you guys are getting those. I hope you love them. Jen works really hard to listen to all the channels, and she pulls out those really great nuggets that you didn't want to miss, and she puts them in the daily quote. So here was one of the quotes, and then I'll tell you the question. The quote said, "There are many people in so much emotional pain, and because they have been medicating with various things, and those things have lost their ability to numb the pain, they are giving up. And so the ego presents death as the way out. For listen to this, the ego would rather that you die than that you become the God that you are. And either the ego will be God or God will be God. Either your ego will be God or your higher self, your fifth dimensional, perfect, eternal, blameless soul will be God, but there can't be two." I loved that. And so the question came from Jess, and she said, "Why would the ego rather that we die than realize that we are God?" And I bet you have some things on this too. But so as I reflected on that, this channeled part from Judah is lifted from A Course in Miracles. The ego would rather you die than become the God that you are. So the ego originates from our limbic system, which is at the base of our brain where our hippocampus and amygdala are. And so we are encoded and conditioned so much when we're young to be afraid. The purpose of this part of our brain is to help us survive and to avoid pain. So survive and avoid pain. And so what's happening is we're evolving, as humanity is evolving as a species, and we're becoming more and more like our angelic selves. Some of these old parts of our brain aren't really serving us that well anymore. Yes, we do need that part of our brain. It tells us not to touch the hot stove or step out in front of the traffic, right? But as we're evolving more and more, some of those things that our brain has encoded as being dangerous or harmful, like for instance, here's one. I grew up in a home where Democrats were really talked down. And if you weren't a Republican, you were most certainly going to hell. That was just the family that I grew up in. And so I'm sure that somewhere in my brain, I encoded that to be a Democrat is dangerous, or to not be a Republican is dangerous. And so that's an encoding or a conditioning that is not serving me well anymore, right? To be in faith is that I, as a fifth dimensional being, I do not identify at all with any political party whatsoever. None whatsoever. I love all beings at all times, in all ways. And I would never consider any person that identified with any political party as being a threat to me. They're not a threat. They're a beautiful, eternal soul, and I love them. So, see, the ego, when you start growing and you start moving towards higher levels of consciousness, your ego is going to put up a fight, and it's going to fight with everything it has, because it believes, your belief system is that you can't change and take on these new expansive ideas of consciousness, because if you do, you're going to be hurt and you're not going to be able to survive. And so that's why it will literally sometimes give you a fight to the death. It will feel like that. And I had, my experience was that I was breaking through into awareness and towards enlightenment so quickly over the last 6 or 7 years. I remember one particular night where I had gone to bed and I just felt like I got dropped into hell. I had something emotional coming up. It was being triggered by someone that I cared for, and something they said made me feel abandoned emotionally, which was a common, thing for me from my past and my conditioning, to feel emotionally abandoned. And so something was said that triggered it, and I literally just went to hell. I don't know how to explain it. It's beyond description. It was so painful. It was so tormenting. I was only there maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but it was so bad, the pain, the emotional pain that I felt, that I literally would rather have died than continued on feeling it for another 20 minutes. It was that bad. And thankfully, it lifted. And so one thing I would say is, if you're doing really intense work of releasing your ego, you might have some hard times. It's kind of like a goldsmith. You know, when a goldsmith has a pot of gold and he turns up the fire on it. And what happens is he turns up the fire. He wants to take that gold from 10 karat gold to 14 karat gold to 24 karat gold. And to do that, he has to turn up the heat, and all the impurities come to the surface. And he scoops off the impurities on the surface. And that's how the gold then is more pure. And so sometimes when you're doing this work, you're just going to have some really shitty days, you know, and hopefully you've got people around you that love you and support you through it. And you just let the angels scoop off all the yucky stuff that's coming up. And just, if you can, just rejoice and get excited and be excited and happy, knowing that you are getting free. You are getting free. And the evidence of your getting free is the crazy stuff that comes to the surface. And just know that as it's coming up, it's coming to go. It's coming to go. It's coming to go. So just welcome it.